I just wanted to do a collection of some of my favorite things, my favorite operatic arias, the favorite things that I sang this year. Because this year I kind of was adventurous and I sang new things and I sang old things and I sang all sorts of things. So I thought I would start with one of my own beloved staples, which is the opera The Elixir of Love. So this is the opera by Gaetano Donizetti, and you've got the main protagonist. His name is Nemorino, the name actually means little nobody. He's a humble boy, very, very kind, very gentle, very sweet, not the brightest crayon in the bunch, though. And he is madly in love with his landlady, Adina, who owns the vineyard where he works. And, you know, she takes time to sit with her workers during lunch, and she reads to them from the books that she's constantly studying because she's a bit of a bookworm. And at the beginning of the opera, this is what's going on. And she's reading to them from the legend of Tristan and Isolde, and talking about the love potion that they both drank, which made them fall in love with each other. And Nemorino is watching from the side, just sighing, being absolutely love-struck, saying, "Oh, she is so dear. She is so wonderful. I am just a fool. I don't know what to say. She teaches, she reads, and I barely know anything at all. All I can do is sigh over her."
Quanto è bella, quanto è cara, più la vedo e più mi piace, ma in quel cor non sono capace, lievi a vedo ad inspirar. Essa legge, studia, impara, non via cosa d'essa ignota. Io sono sempre un idiota, io non so che sospirar. Quanto è cara, quanto è bella, oh, quanto è bella, quanto è cara, più la vedo e più mi piace, ma in quel cor non son capace lievi affetto ad inspirar. In quel cor non son capace lievi affetto ad inspirar. In quel cor non son capace lievi affetto ad inspirar. Lieve affetto. In quel cor non son capace, non son capace, lievi affetto ad inspirar.
So I love singing Nemorino. I love performing him on stage because he's a very sweet character, as you can tell by the music that he sings. Now, Nemorino, as I said, he's not the brightest crayon in the box. And So after this scene, he has a moment where he talks to Adina and he confesses his love for her, apparently for like the 10th time because she's heard it all before. And she tells him, I gotta tell you, Nemorino, you're a very kind, humble, gentle boy. You're good, but don't think for a moment that you stand a chance against a sergeant that is courting me. The best thing for you to do is to find another lover. Find another love because one love cures another. And Nemorino tells her, no, Adina, that's something I cannot do. And she basically goes, okay, suit yourself. And so he's left despondent. But then, just in the nick of time, into the town gallops this snake oil salesman, Dr. Dulcamara, who promises to cure just about everything with his miraculous elixir. He promises to cure pneumonia, acne, the gout, and even death. Of course, this is if he were in the modern world, he would probably be a wellness YouTube influencer at this point, selling you his detox juices, so to speak. Well, Nemorino, being, of course, the very naive boy that he is, he heard Adina talking about the Isolda, the love potion. And so he asks him, Doctor, do you have the love potion of Queen Isolda? And the doctor says, of course, here you go. And he sells him a potion which he admits to the audience is actually just wine. So Nemorino gets drunk off of this potion, and he is so cocky. He thinks, oh yeah, she's gonna love me for sure. Now, jumping ahead a little bit, one thing that happens is that Nemorino's very rich uncle dies, and he leaves his entire fortune to Nemorino, unbeknownst to him. But every girl in the village has found out, and she suddenly realizes, hey, Nemorino is a great catch. Now, Nemorino, in order to be able to afford that bottle, actually went to the sergeant that was courting Adina, and he volunteered to join the army so that he could get his advance pay to buy that bottle. And Adina finds out that Nemorino essentially gave up his freedom for a chance for her to love him. So she goes to look for him, realizing that he really does love her and she really does actually love him. But she finds him in the midst of being pawed at by every girl in the village who wants a piece of him now that he's rich. And Nemorino, being drunk, he kind of gets a little bit cocky. And when he sees Adina, he decides to be indifferent to her, to teach her a lesson. And he gets carted off by all the women, but just as he's about to disappear, he looks back and he sees on her face one tear rolling down her cheek. Now, a little bit later on, when he's finally alone, he has a moment to reflect and realizes, my God, she cried over me. She loves me. She really, really loves me.
istante i palpiti del suo bel cor sentir, i miei sospir confondere per poco a suoi sospir. I palpiti sentir, confondere i miei assai sospir. Cielo si può morir, di più non chiedo, non chiedo. Cielo si può morir, di più non chiedo, non chiedo. Si può si può morire d'amor.
Oh, the vicissitudes of Second Life. Just zoomed back in on my avatar, and my face was great. Now it's not anymore. Oy vey, que vote. Thank you, Luciano. Oh, everyone, we have Luciano Lionheart in the audience, the frontman for Buena Onda, and an amazing singer. I got to hear him live on the 22nd, was it? It almost feels like 10 years at this point. Just December has been crazy. Well, in any case, let me show you something else. So this is a bit different. This is from the opera La Favorita, The Favorite. Brief background. So this takes place during the conquest of the Reconquista, when Spain was fighting the kingdom of Granada and the Moors who had taken over Granada. And our protagonist, Fernand, is a monk who joined the war effort and distinguished himself brilliantly, apparently, one of those D&D monks. I don't know, monastic life, who knows. But so he does so well that the king tells him, you can name anything that you want and I will give it to you in gratitude for your service. And he says, well, Fernand says, I want only one thing in the world. I want the hand of Leonora, who is a member of your court. Now, of course, the king goes, say, what? Because unbeknownst to Fernand, Leonora is the king's favorite, his concubine. But this is good for the king, you see, because Leonora, his queen is the daughter of a very, very powerful abbot. And she has been complaining to the abbot that she has been neglected in favor of the favorite. So the abbot has then been complaining to the Pope. And the Pope has been riding the king's butt about, hey, you're not observing your husbandly duties. You need to get rid of this woman. So, of course, the king promises to offload Leonora somewhere. And this is the perfect time. So he says, okay, you and Leonora can be married. Now the problem is that Fernand doesn't know that Leonora is the king's concubine. Now, Leonora does love Fernand, and she has tried to tell him multiple times about her past, because, she believes that any husband and, any romantic partner, should be informed of what her past is. And she tries. She really tries to tell him, but opera things happen and she's not able to until after the wedding, during the wedding night. Talk about awkward. Now, Fernand takes the news as you would expect. He's a grown, mature man who has seen war. He has gone through a lot. So, of course, you can imagine that he respects the fact that Leonora had a romantic life before he came on the scene. And I can't say this with a straight face. He's a tenor. He throws a major fit. He repudiates Leonora, and then he runs back to the monastery to bemoan his fate, calling her unfaithful even though she was the king's lover before he made it onto the scene. And he just goes and has a massive sulk, saying nasty, mean things about Leonora, calling her an unfaithful woman, a disloyal creature, a duplicitous creature who seemed to be such a gentle spirit. Very mature. But since this is a Donizetti opera, he sings it beautifully, of course. Like I said, a wonderful sulk. Now, if it seems to you that he does a 180 so quickly from adoration to complete repudiation, this is not unknown in opera. An example, I'm going to sing the aria Che gelida manina, such a cool little hand from the opera La Bohème, where Rodolfo, the poet, tells Mimi that she has come into his room and has stolen all of his riches, his poems, his songs of love, but they have left hope in their stead, the promise of true love. I want to point out that Rodolfo at this point has only known Mimi for about 5 minutes. So, red flag there, which will prove to be correct later in the opera. But in any case, here is Rodolfo's aria from La Bohème, Che gelida manina.
Se la lasci scaldare, c'è qualche giova al buio non si trova. Ma per fortuna è una notte di luna e qui la luna la vediamo vicino. Aspetti, signorina, le dirò con 2 parole. Chi sono che faccio come vivo? Vuole. Chi sono? Sono un poeta, che cosa faccio? Scrivo e come vivo, in povertà mia lieta, scialo la gran signore, di merini d'amore, per sogni e per chimere, per castelli in aria, l'anima milionaria. Paletta le mie petiere, trovan tutti gioielli, 2 ladri gli occhi belli. D'entrare con voi furore di miei sogni usati, e bel sogni miei tosto si dire guai, ma il furto non m'accora. Poiché m'apre sostanza la speranza, ora che mi conoscete, parlate voi, parlate chi siete.
course. I've sung a lot of stuff, but I don't just sing opera. No, I like to do torch songs too. Anyone here knows the composer Kurt Weill, who composed both opera and musical theater, right? He was from Germany, passed through France, running away from the Nazis, ended up coming to the United States, where he created a whole new different language of musical theater and opera that mixed blues and jazz sensitivities with classical technique, to the point that many of his musicals sound like operas and many of his operas sound like musicals, Lost in the Stars. Well, what I'm going to sing is from one of his lesser known pieces, but probably one of the most famous songs from it. And this is from Knickerbocker Holiday. Where is it? Oh. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. I've been running through race, and the wind that follows after, for one certain face, and an unforgotten laughter. I've been following signs, I've been searching through the land for one pair of eyes and a certain pair of hands. Yes, I've looked everywhere. You can look without wings, and I found a great variety of interesting things, but it never was you. It never was anywhere you. An occasional sunset reminded me, or a flower hanging high on a tulip tree, or one red star low in the west, or a heartbreak call from the meadowlark's nest, made me think for a moment, maybe it's true. I found him in the star, in the cold, in the blue, but it never was you. It never was anywhere you. Anywhere. Now, you know who wrote gorgeous torch songs. You wouldn't believe it, but Stephen Sondheim. In fact, you might not know of this musical because it wasn't one of his more successful ones, but I think it's one of the more interesting ones. His musical Follies, which takes place in a theater that kind of is reminiscent of the theater that the Ziegfeld Follies took place in the 30s. You know, in this musical, you have kind of a much more mature cast of performers who used to perform in the Follies. And now it is 30 years later, so it's takes place in the 60s. And the theater that they all performed in is about to be torn down to give way to a new parking garage. And so the cast decides to reunite one last time and kind of relive their days of youth. And with doing so comes all of the unresolved baggage. Now, the interesting thing about this musical is that it's double cast. You have the cast of the Follies as they appear in the present, but they are literally haunted by the ghosts of their former selves. So each character on stage also has a ghostly counterpart that is their younger version of themselves. And let's say that all of the psychological drama is acted out on stage, up until the point that reality just breaks down. There's so much drama that reality breaks down and creates a place called Loveland, where every character is kind of stuck in a purgatory where they're constantly acting out their particular follies. Now, this particular character is the character of Sally, who is in love with Buddy, and has been for the last 30 years. Buddy chose the other girl, and she's never been able to really get over him, even though Buddy is a complete idiot when you see him in the play. But she has this idealized image of Buddy that she just can't let go. And in this section of the Loveland Folly parallel universe, she appears and she comes out dressed like a torch song singer from the 1920s, 1930s, with the clinging dress and the microphone and everything. And then she launches into this song that kind of exposes the absolute obsessive quality of her melody. So, without further ado, here is Sally just losing her mind.
The sun comes up, I think about you. The coffee cup, I think about you. I want you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. The morning ends, I think about you. I talk to friends, I think about you. And do they know it's like I'm losing my mind? All afternoon doing every little chore, the thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I dim the lights and think about you, spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me, oh, were you just being kind? or am I losing my mind? All afternoon doing every little chore, the sight of you burns bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I in the nights and think about you, spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me. Oh, were you just being kind? Or am I losing my
So, as I said, Kurt Weill wrote operas too. He wrote Street Scene, which is one of the great American operas, which deals with isolation, with people living in a city surrounded by people yet feeling incredibly alone. Now, I've sung the tenor aria from that one before, but I like the soprano aria better. And since there are no stage directors here to stop me, I'm just going to go ahead and sing it, why don't I? Right? This is the soprano's aria from Street Scene, where the soprano has just been propositioned by her boss, who wants her to marry him. And, well, she says, well, I'm sorry, but I don't really love you. And he says, well, I don't care. Just marry me anyways, and I will give you fur coats, I will give you diamonds you will want for nothing in your life. And she has a different take on this. She can't really imagine marrying someone she doesn't love, even if it is financially convenient. And so, to his offer of diamonds and fur coats, she says this.
I've looked through the windows at diamonds. They're beautiful, but they're cold. I've seen Broadway stars with fur coats that cost a fortune, or so I'm told. I guess I'd look nice in diamonds, and sables might add to my charms. But if someone I don't care for should buy them, I'd rather have two loving arms. What good would the moon be unless the right one shared its beams? What good would dreams come true be if love wasn't in those dreams? And a primrose path, what would be the fun of walking down a path like that without the right one? What good would the night be unless the right lips whispered low, oh, kiss me, darling, kiss me, while the evening stars would glow? No, it won't be a primrose path for me, and it won't be diamonds and gold, but maybe there will be someone
before I sing my last piece, I want to share another classical piece with you. Technically speaking, Kurt Weill is classical, but did you hear how much of blues and jazz was in that operatic aria, right? That's why I love Kurt Weill. In fact, in 2025, there's going to be a worth the while concert of nothing but the music of Kurt Weill, which I will perform. So let's go ahead. Now, I want to take a quick detour before my final, thank you, Sandy, my final song. This is going to be a song by Franz Schubert, 1797 to 1828, who was the king of the German art song or Lieder. And this is Extension, based on a poem by Ludwig Rellstab, which is all about how his poems, his songs, fly towards his beloved. Leise fliehen meine Lieder. If I can find it. There we go.
Leise fliehen meine Lieder durch die Nacht zu dir. In den stillen Haien nieder, Liebchen, komm zu mir. Ein schwanke Wipfel rauchen in des Mondes Licht, in des Mondes Licht. Des Verrätes freundlich lauschen, fürchte holde nicht, fürchte holde nicht.
for my final piece from Kurt Weill's A Touch of Real Life by an absolute idiot who decided it was a great prank to put his engagement ring on a statue's finger. And if you've read your Greek myth, you know what happened. She came to life and promptly fell in love with him, and now she's absolutely baffled as to why he is rejecting her advances. Finding herself in this modern society, she realizes she doesn't really know what the cues are, so she asks some very, very, understandable questions, such as,
tell me, is love still a popular suggestion or merely an obsolete art? Forgive me for asking this simple question. I'm unfamiliar with his heart. I'm a stranger here myself. Why is it wrong to murmur I adore him when it's shamefully obvious I do? Does love embarrass him, or does it bore him? I'm only waiting for my cue. I'm a stranger here myself. I dream of a gay, warm day with my face between his hands. Have I missed the path? Have I gone astray? I ask and no one understands. Love me or leave me, that seems to be the question. I don't know the tactics to use. But if he should offer a personal suggestion, how could I possibly refuse? Well, I'm a stranger here myself. Please tell a stranger, by curiosity goaded, is there really any danger that love is now unmolded? I'm interested especially in knowing why you waste it. For romance is so fleshly, with what have you replaced it? What is your latest foible? Is gin rummy more exquisite? Is skiing more enjoyable? For heaven's sake, what is it? I can't believe that love has lost its glamour, that passion is really passé. If love is just a term in grammar, how can I ever find my way since I'm a stranger here myself? How can he ignore my available condition? Why these Victorian views? You see here before you a Cheshire with a mission. I must discover the key to his ignition. And then if he should make a diplomatic proposition, how can I possibly refuse? Because when I'm a stranger here myself.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I am Merryjest Starchild, and today marks the